I just heard somebody say she's excited. I love that. I'm excited too. I'm so happy to be back with you at Devoted. How many were here last year? We had an awesome time, and this has been so great again. And so I am going to tell you a story that I feel like this is a safe place to tell, okay? Since you know me a little bit. I turned 50 a few years ago. And getting ready for my birthday, I felt like my family was probably going to be giving me a surprise party, and I knew this because my husband was cleaning the bathroom. He does never do that. And so as the day approached, I thought, like, how's this going to go? Because I kind of pictured, okay, we'll probably get home and I'll go around the corner of the mudroom into the living room. And I remembered a birthday party that we had thrown for my dad a few years earlier, and he came around that same corner and stepped in. And I mean, the living room was packed with people, and everybody went, surprise! And it was just this awesome moment. And so I'm trying to picture me coming around that corner. And in my head, I'm like, who's going to be in that room? Who's going to be in that room? And I mean, I was excited, but I was a little bit nervous because, you guys, if there is one way that I compare myself with other people and feel a little bit less than, it's the area of friendships. You know, a lot of people compare body image, or they compare like work, they compare houses and money, and I do compare all of those things. But for me, like the thing that like my heart aches over is feeling less than in friendships. Like, I just don't have very many friends. And I try to be nice to people. I really do. I really am a nice person, believe me. But for whatever reason, like I scroll, Instagram or Facebook, and I look at these groups of girls, getting together, or like Bailey talking about getting together with her groups. I don't have, a lot of times I don't have margin for that, but I don't have any of those long-term friend groups that feed my soul in that way. And I look in on others, and I just feel like a little bit insecure. So here's my 50th birthday coming, and I'm wondering who's going to be in that room. So we get home, sure enough, we get home, I turn the corner, walk into the room, and I hear this, surprise! There are 3 people there. 3 people. I mean, honestly, I felt a little embarrassed for myself. Well, how did Kelly put it? Bless my heart, I'm in trouble. That is how I felt in that moment. And I was like, oh my goodness, I only have 3 friends. Like, this is a sad moment. Now, I am 53 now. That was a long time ago. I've got lots of friends now, just kidding. Don't worry about me, and you'll see why. You don't need to worry about me. But I wonder if you ever struggle with comparing in friendships. Comparing whether you do or you don't have friends, or comparing the types of friends that you do. Do you ever struggle with comparison in friendships? I want you to picture you holding a little measuring cup like this one when you walked in the door today. And in this cup are all of the things that you bring to the table as a friend. So I don't know, are you the funny one? Are you the one who's really good at, decorating? You've got an awesome house. Are you the one who's really wise and spiritual and you can give good advice? Are you the kind friend, the good listener? Whatever it is, God put that in your cup. He made you exactly the way that he wanted to be, and he loves what is in your cup. And he loves what you bring to the table as a friend. He loves it. He made you just the way you are. But I wonder if you feel this temptation to take your cup and constantly be putting it next to somebody else's. Do you compare yourself? Do you focus on the lines? Do you measure yourself against other women? Even thinking about when you walked in that door today, did you walk in measuring yourself? Did you look over at a table and think, oh gosh, here's the 2 responses when we measure. Did you think, oh gosh, I don't think I would fit at that table. Those people look really sophisticated and beautiful and amazing, and so I'm going to pull away. Or did you look at another table and feel like, they're a little beneath me. You would never say this, right? These are your secret thoughts, but I'm going to pull away there too, right? Either way, when we're comparing, we're pulling away from one another. And even within friendships, maybe I met several groups today who came together. And I'm so glad, because we are better together, ladies. I'm so glad you came together. But even within a friend group, you can look over and be like, you know what? she is so perfect. She drives me crazy. I don't like how perfect she looks. I don't like how perfect her marriage is. I just want to pull away from her because she makes me feel so inadequate. Or there are other times where we're like, I feel like this is a little one-sided. Like, I am giving so much to this friendship. I'm doing all the texting, right, Bailey? I'm the one doing all the texting. It feels one-sided. I'm going to pull away because I don't like that. Either way, we're pulling away when we're measuring ourselves. And I just want you to know that the lines on these measuring cups, these are keeping us from having friends, right? We do not want you to go away from devoted, better together without a few more new friends. And the lines will keep you away from making new friends, and they'll also keep you from connecting deeply with the friends that you do have. And so, I think it's super interesting that we call comparison a game. I do not think it's a game. I think it is a strategy that our enemy uses against us. Do you know that you have an enemy? And he wants to divide you from other people. He wants you in isolation. We already heard that today, right? He wants you divided from others. And he is behind these comparison ideas. Let me show you a verse that shows you why I say that, okay? This is James chapter 3:14. It says, "But if you have bitter jealousy or selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic." Have you ever thought about your jealousy as being demonic? That's some strong language there, right? Look at those two words at the top, like the bitter jealousy. That's when I look over at what's in your cup and you have more, and I do not like that. Selfish ambition, that's when I want to make it look like I have the most in my cup, and I have to look perfect all the time, and I have to not be vulnerable and let you know that I have flaws too. Selfish ambition and jealousy, neither of these are rooted in the wisdom that is from above. These are earthly, unspiritual. These are demonic ideas, and they make us lonely, don't they? We are living in this lonely generation. We do need each other. We are better together. But our enemy is using these ideas to divide us. And so what's the answer? I think, how do we usually respond to each other when we're comparing? Like if you have a friend and you're like, I'm just comparing with her, what does she usually say? Usually what we hear is just stop, just stop comparing. And I think we kind of think that's what Jesus would say too. Just stop comparing. And my question is okay, how, right? How do I stop? Because, it seems pretty obvious that you have more of this in your cup and I have less. And am I just supposed to put those horse blinders on so I don't see the differences between us? The differences are obvious. How am I supposed to stop comparing? And the other interesting thing I think is Jesus never said, stop comparing. Oops, there they go. Thanks for laughing with me. Jesus never said stop comparing. In fact, there are all of these stories that he told. They're comparison stories where he's comparing different characters, and he's inviting us to find ourselves in these stories. Can you think of any of them? The Good Samaritan, he's comparing different characters, the wise and the foolish builder, and he's also comparing people in real life. He compared Martha and Mary. He said Mary had chosen the better thing. That's a comparison word, right? He called his disciples over to look at this widow who had given 2 copper coins. He said she had given more than anybody. That's a comparison word, right? So what in the world? Why would Jesus be inviting us to compare? Well, I wrote my book, Comparison Girl, looking for that answer. I studied all of these stories Jesus told and comparison statements he made, like the last will be first, the greatest is the servant. Why is he talking about these things? Because he's always saying these in response to someone who's comparing. You'll either have the disciples who are trying to get ahead of each other, or the Pharisees who are looking down on everybody, or the sick people or the poor people, and they're feeling less than. And in response, Jesus tells all of these stories and statements about comparing in a completely different way. And he's describing how things are different in his kingdom. I think it's sort of like this. Let's suppose that you and I are playing Uno. We're sitting at a table. We're playing Uno. And you notice that I am trying to get as many cards in my hand as I can. Somebody lays a draw 4, and I'm like, yes, more cards for me. If you are a good friend, you're going to lean over and say, Shannon, do you know that the goal of Uno is to have less cards, not more? Right? That's what you're going to do. And this is what Jesus is doing. He's saying, in my kingdom, I know in the world, it is all about measuring up. It is all about the lines. But in my kingdom, things are different. In my kingdom, the focus is on the spout. And so if Jesus had a measuring cup, how big would it be? It'd be bigger than Kentucky, right? It would be brimming full too. Jesus is the most of everything. He is the kindest friend. He is the most gentle. He is the most understanding. He is the most generous. Like, Jesus is the best friend anyone could possibly have. There's no weakness in him at all. And what did Jesus do with his brimming full measuring cup? Do you know what he did? Look at Philippians 2. It says, Jesus emptied himself. That's what Jesus did with that brimming full cup. He emptied himself by assuming the form of a servant. First, he became a baby. He set aside the glory of heaven. And then by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Did you see our cross in the devoted symbol here? This is how Jesus showed us that he is our friend. He said, greater love has no man than somebody who lays his life down for his friends. Did you know Jesus laid his life down for you? And he did it so he could be your friend, because you were separated from God by your sin. And Jesus died on that cross not for your sin, not for his sin, but for your sin. And so that he could be your friend. And so he's inviting you into a relationship. And friend, if you are here and haven't begun that relationship with Jesus, I want to be the first one to talk to you about it. I have a Bible for you back at my table. I would love to introduce you to my best friend, Jesus. He has made all the difference in my life. And what I need you to see is Jesus doesn't just want to be your friend. He wants to influence you with his mindset. This mindset of, no, in my kingdom, we don't focus on the lines, we focus on the spout. He wants for you to know this and to be influenced by his way of thinking. Those verses we just looked at in Philippians say that we should have the mind of Christ, who in humility emptied himself. So he wants to influence us with this mindset, and he wants to change the way that we are as a friend. And so when we come into a room, instead of measuring ourselves with each other, instead of looking at the lines, we come into this room focused on the spout. And we're like, you know what? I'm the kind one. I'm going to show some kindness. You know what? I'm the fun one. I'm going to tell some jokes. And we come and look at, when you're pouring and tipping, you have to gather together to make that happen, right? And it brings us together. Our differences actually pull us together, because she has a little bit of this, I have a little bit of that, and we are better together. This is Jesus's mindset. And so I wonder if you would just take inventory of your life right now and think about these two ways of looking at it. We've got the lines and we've got the spout. Which describes you right now? Which kind of friend are you? Are you the kind of friend who's always measuring, always comparing, always feeling inadequate, insecure, always jealous, always trying to measure up? Or are you the kind of friend who empties herself? Look at this. When you tip this cup, the lines don't matter anymore. There's so much freedom in that. Is that how you are living your life right now? I had a woman who reached out to me. She is an influencer in the place where I live, and she said, hey, we should be friends. And I said, that sounds great. And so she said, let's get together. I said, why don't you come over to my house and we'll go walking? I live by a walking trail, and so she thought that sounded good. So she shows up, I open the door, and immediately I was like, oh no. What's that statement again, Kelly? Bless my heart, I'm in trouble, because she looked perfect. She looked like in her influencer attire. Her hair was done, her makeup, a cute outfit like she could have been posing in. And I was not looking that way. I was in yesterday's yoga pants and an old t-shirt and had not done my makeup, no hair. No, I did have hair. I just had not done my hair. Sorry. But I opened the door and I was like, oh no. And I'm like, Kelly, I'm so sorry. I thought we were going walking. And she's like, oh, we can walk. And I looked down, she's got these high heel. I'm like, come on in, honey, come on in. So we sit down on my patio in the backyard. She brought these treats from Starbucks, and we're sitting there. And I am having this internal battle in my heart. Because as I'm sitting there looking at her, looking so beautiful and so polished, and she wants to be my friend, I am thinking I look awful right now. I was picturing us doing this, not looking at each other, right? I look really bad. And I'm thinking oh, do I have any makeup from yesterday left? I think I just rolled out of bed, and I was so focused on me. So focused on these lines. We think of comparison as glancing side to side, but it's really a me focus, isn't it? Right? And so as I sat there, I thought, you know what? I just wrote this book called Comparison Girl, and it's all about focusing on the spout. And I have a choice right now. I can either sit here and obsess over me, or I can focus on her. I can invest in her. I can pour into her life. I can ask her questions and get to know her. And so that is what I chose to do in that moment. And it was hard. But it's a choice that we make, not to focus on the lines, but focus on the spout. It's a choice we make, but I think even more, it's a person that we know. Because it was not just me deciding, okay, I'm going to focus in a different direction and I'm going to have this freedom, this me-free living. Yes, that is what Jesus offers, but he doesn't offer it apart from himself. You see, he gives us himself as a friend. He wants to be our very closest friend. And I think, ladies, that if we want to figure this whole comparison thing out and be free, we got to spend some time with our Jesus. Before we walk through the door, before we open that door, we've got to get some things figured out. We've got to remind ourselves of what he says about us, that he loves us, that he made us exactly the way that we are, and that he invites us to this kingdom where people don't have to measure up. They can have mismatched amounts, and they can just pour into one another and have this me-free way of living. That's what Jesus invited me to that day at my patio, and it's what he invites you to every single day. You see, Jesus wants for us to be like a sheep. Like a sheep. He talks about himself as a shepherd, and he not only wants to be our friend, but he wants to shepherd us, and he wants for us to be like this sheep. Do you know that sheep can tell the difference between voices really, really good? I read this story about these two brothers who had really similar voices, where they could trick their girlfriends on the phone, you couldn't tell which one was picking up the phone. Well, they were a family of sheep herders. And so the older brother had been away at college, and he came home and he said, hey, let's try to trick the baby sheep. These sheep had been born while he was away at college, and it was the younger brother's job to feed the sheep. So every day he would go to the pasture, and he had this certain call hey, sheep, So the older brother, I don't know, it probably doesn't sound like that. the older brother learned it and tried to trick the sheep. So he goes out to the pasture and says hey, sheep, and not one sheep lifts its head. But then the younger brother does what to us maybe sounds like the same call, hey, sheep, and every single one of them starts coming to eat. That's the gift that a sheep has. And so when Jesus is saying we need to be like sheep, he's saying something particularly about us and our relationship with him. There is this sermon, this little mini sermon that Jesus preached in John chapter 10. And I don't have much time to unpack it with you. I just want to look at a few of these verses, though, together. And, okay, when you get home, remember this passage, John 10, and go back and read John 9, because if you read that story, you are going to see there are some people comparing one another. And all of those people are listening as Jesus tells this story about a sheep and a shepherd. And so here's what Jesus says, and I want to give you two things that his sheep know. Okay, so first look with me at John chapter 10, 1 through 2. It says, truly I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in some other way, is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. A stranger they will not follow, but they will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of strangers. Did you see the two uses of stranger there in that bottom verse? Stranger. The first thing that sheep know about is stranger danger. They know that their enemy is like a stranger. And the first way that they know is like that first verse says, the one who doesn't come to the gate but climbs in another way. Let me show you a picture of a sheep pen, an ancient sheep pen. Like, sheep aren't very smart. That's what I've heard. They're not very smart, but they are smart enough to know that the guy who's climbing in the pen after dark, like, that ain't the shepherd. Like, they're smart enough to know that. The shepherd, he's the one that comes to the door and he calls them by their name. But this guy, he's climbing in. And friends, this is how your enemy is in your life. He does not come to the door, ding dong, I am here to tempt you to compare yourself. No, he climbs in, he's sneaky. And his voice is like a stranger. How do you recognize a stranger's voice? Do you know? How do you recognize it? Well, you don't, because you don't recognize. That's the whole point, is they're a stranger and you don't know them. I think it's sort of like this. Like, did you know that arsonists like to return to the scene of the crime after they set a fire? They like to return. Criminologists have studied this, and they'll take pictures at the crime scene, and later they'll find that the guy who set the fire is in the crowd. And he is watching with this sense of power and importance. And he is completely fine with being anonymous, right? He is fine with being the stranger in the crowd. And I think that's how your enemy is. He is fine with you not even realizing that you are being influenced by him. He's completely fine with that, with him just blending in. And you know what? He wants to set your life on fire. He wants to burn your life down, and he is completely fine with you not even knowing that he's the one who did it. Anybody got any fires burning in your life? Any teens who are just struggling so much with comparison? My heart has been, we've got a new book called Comparison for Teens out, and my heart is just breaking for our teenagers. They're isolated, they're alone, but you know what? Their mamas don't have answers for them, because their mamas don't know the voice of Jesus to feed their daughters and to say, he's the shepherd. Our girls, our women need to know about stranger danger. We need to know that we've got an enemy creeping in who is absolutely here to destroy us. When we were researching for that book, I watched the Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. It's a really interesting documentary. And it shows that in one part there's this little, maybe like 12 or 13-year-old girl, and she posts a picture of herself on her phone, and she's like, posing, and she clicks it, and then she starts watching as the comments roll in, and people are saying, oh, you're so cute, and things like this, and then somebody puts an icon of an elephant, indicating that her ears are big. And so the next scene you see her, and she's looking in the mirror, and she's like trying to cover her ears with her hair, and she's got this little tear running down her cheek. And when I saw that, I was like sobbing. And what I'm yelling at my TV is, go find your mom, because your mom, she's right outside the door. You do not need to be doing this battle with the enemy of your soul alone in your bedroom. Like, we have got to help each other. We have an enemy who is attacking, and this whole isolation thing, like, he is just burning our lives down. And so, friend, you need to know about stranger danger. That's the first thing that the sheep know, but they also know another thing. They know how to detect the voice of Jesus. Look with me at verse 2 in that passage. We just read, the one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. He is the one who, ding dong, I am here to lead you. He is overt. He's not hidden. He's not climbing over any sheep pen walls. The gatekeeper opens it for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he has brought out his own outside, he goes ahead of them. The sheep follow him because they know his voice. The second thing is, the sheep, they know what Jesus' voice sounds like. They know it so well. They've heard it over and over. They recognize it. They know exactly what his voice sounds like. My goal by the end of Comparison Girl was that the women, by the end of that book, they would know what Jesus sounds like with this topic of comparison. They would know his upside down statements. Do you know what Jesus' voice sounds like? Do you have a friendship with him? Do you have a relationship? You see, when you're being influenced by the stranger, You might not know you're being influenced by the stranger, but when you're being influenced by Jesus, you know that you are being influenced by Jesus because he comes to the door. He is overt. There's nothing hidden. Nobody follows Jesus by accident. Am I right? We follow Jesus by knowing his voice, by listening to his voice. Do you know we have a recording of Jesus' voice? It's right here in this book. Here are the things Jesus says. The greatest is the servant. Whoever humbles herself will be exalted. Whoever puts herself last will be first. This is how it goes in the kingdom of God. This is Jesus' voice. I want to do a quick listening test, okay? I want for you, like, picture yourself as a sheep, okay? And I want you to do a listening test. This is a little bit different kind. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of call out some messages. And if you have ever been influenced by a message like this, I just kind of want to have you keep tally on your fingers, okay? Are you ready? Everybody ready? Got your ears ready? You will never measure up. You will never measure up. You need to be more like her. You need to be skinnier like her. You need to have a better job like her. You need to have a better marriage like hers. Your kids need to be better like hers. You will never measure up. And you cannot let anybody know about your weaknesses. No, do not let your friends know. Don't let them know that you're about to get a divorce. Don't let them know about that porn addiction. Do not let them know that. Do not let them know how lonely you feel. Do not let them know that you're about to lose your job. Do not let anybody in. You have to look perfect all of the time. And you should be ashamed of yourself. You really should be ashamed of yourself. Look at you. Your marriage is falling apart. Your kids are falling apart. Your ministry is such a failure. You should be ashamed of yourself. You will never measure up, not as a mom, not as a wife, not as a friend. How many of you had more than just a couple on your fingers there? Friend, here's what I need you to know. Jesus never said anything remotely like any one of those. He does not talk like that. That is not what his voice sounds like. And if those are the messages that you have been influenced by, my friend, I have to warn you about stranger danger. Those messages do not come from your Jesus. His voice sounds more like this. Do you want to be one of the great ones? Then be the servant of all. In your friend group, the greatest is the one who serves. Do you want to be a good influence in your kid's life? The one who puts herself last and puts her family first? She's going to be first in the kingdom of God. Do you want to be celebrated by the people who know you at your funeral someday? Here's what heaven says. Whoever humbles herself will be exalted in the kingdom of God. This is what Jesus' voice sounds like. You know, Jesus is always going to point us to the spout, not the lines. And this impacts our friendship. It impacts the kind of person that we become, right? As we listen to the voice of Jesus, as we do this work with him, and we hear his voice and we learn to recognize his voice, intuitively we start focusing on the spout. And again, when we tip that cup, the lines don't matter anymore. Well, that day at my 50th birthday party, I remember sitting in the living room and just kind of dying 1,000 deaths. We're all sitting around eating cake, and I'm like, please, nobody take a picture of this and put it on Instagram. Like my 50th birthday bash with my 3 friends. Like it just seemed a little bit ridiculous to me. And so, I remember sitting there just thinking, like, Shannon, this is ridiculous. Like, you only have 3 friends? What a loser. You've been on this planet for 50 years, and you've only accumulated 3 friends? Come on. This is what's going inside of my head. And then I suddenly had this thought, like, oh my goodness, my Jesus does not talk to me like that. Has my enemy crept over that wall? Is he trying to influence me at my own birthday party? I don't think so, right? Because I had been listening long enough to the voice of Jesus, I knew that was not his voice. And so in the quiet of my heart, I prayed and I said, Jesus, I want you to help me see this room the way that you do. Show me what's in my cup. And you know what he showed me? I have parents who have loved the Lord and loved me my entire life, and they were there. I have a husband who's been a faithful, kind friend to me. He is so gentle. He's such a good man. And he was there. We've been married almost 29 years. And I have 3 kids, 3 amazing kids who follow Jesus and walk with him. And they're my friends. Not every mom gets to say that, right? And also, I have 3 friends. Not everybody has 3 friends. I mean, my friend Rachel, she is like worth 10 friends to me. Like, we go on these walks together and we talk about deep spiritual things. She encourages me. I love her like a sister. I am a blessed woman. My cup is full. It's full to overflowing. And in that moment, I thought, oh, forgive me, Lord, for focusing on the lines. How can I focus on the spout? How can I invest in these people? And, I started thinking, like, you know what? I don't think this friend has ever met my dad. Dad, you got to tell her the story about that. And, like, I don't think my kids have ever met, hey, tell her about what you're doing at work because you have this connection. And so I started doing my thing and connecting people. That's one of the things that is true about me. I love to connect people. I love to tell stories. And I have to say, when I reflect on my 50th birthday party, it was my favorite. It was my favorite. I love close, intimate groups. That's the way God made me. And there's nothing wrong with having a big birthday bash. Friend, God has filled your cup. He has made you uniquely you, not to be alone in isolation, because we are better together. And so here today, and as you go home, my encouragement to you is ask yourself, am I going to focus on the lines or am I going to focus on the spout? And it's not just a decision to be made. It's a person who wants to influence you, and his name is Jesus. Can I pray for you? Lord Jesus, we love you. We're so grateful for this opportunity to be together in this room, focusing on truth, remembering who you are and what you've done for us. God, we thank you that you sent your son, Jesus. You gave your only son who poured his life out so that we could be your friend. And I pray that our relationship with you, it would influence us. It would change us. It would turn us into women who aren't just focused on the lines and focused on ourselves and focused on measuring. But Lord, would you turn us into Jesus girls who have this me-free focus? Lord, would you help us to find freedom and peace and joy in our relationship with you? In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen.